Alright, this is a video on small lures versus the bigger lures. And first of all, a lot of people say big lures catch bigger fish. They usually do. Like something like this big thing, it's called a jitterbug. I've caught a lot of big, 4-pound bass on it, and it works really, really well. But it doesn't always work. If the fish aren't feeding that well, they're not going to be going for big lures. They'll be going for something like that. That's just a smaller version of the bigger jitterbug. But when fish aren't active, or even if you're just trying to get on fish, that's when you use the smaller lure. Same with the crayfish. I use fake crayfish a lot for fishing in rivers where there's smallmouth. And when I first get to the river, I always use my small crayfish first. Same with any of these lures. I always use my smaller version first. And that's because most fish, like even the smaller ones, the bigger ones sometimes still will go for the smaller ones, but it helps me locate where the fish are. And if I'm using, say, this small one and I'm catching a lot of fish and I'm catching smaller fish, I jump up to this one, which is bigger, and then I'll start catching the big ones. But if I start with something like this and I'm not catching any fish at all, it's probably because the bigger ones are inactive and are only feeding on something this size. Same thing with my spoons. For finding fish, to find out where fish are, like especially with things like pike. I fish for pike quite often. I use a small spoon like that just to find out where they are, what colors they like. Once I figured out kind of where they are in the lake and what colors they're hitting on, then I'll jump up to something bigger, like even that, or even like a great big, well, not great big, but a decent sized lure. But if I go out and I start fishing with this, trying to find out where the fish are, I could be casting a big lure right in front of them, right where the fish are, and they're not biting it because they're just not that active. Active fish feed on bigger objects. But I've also caught, say, with my spoons, I've caught 5-6 pound trout with that thing. My buddy has too. We use these little spoons a lot, but big fish still will go for it. Basically what it all comes down to is use your small lures to find where the fish are. Then when you find out where the fish are, what kind of lures they are hitting, then switch up to the big ones and start catching the bigger fish.